Hey, this is Bailey.
And I'm Timothy.
And welcome to What Sleep Podcast.
Let's get right into it.
Woo. Welcome back to Wednesday's episode. Okay, so I want to tell you, I don't know what that was, but we're keeping it in.
Hey,
So,
whatever works, man.
I want to tell you guys a little bit about our merchandise. Still too late for Christmas, but you can still order. And we got mugs, we got t-shirts, we got hoodies, we got all sorts of stuff on our store. And if you're a Patreon, you can get 15% off all of our merchandise. So go check us out, and you guys can help support the podcast directly. And I really thank you guys for it so much. Super nice, guys. All right.
I do got to say that I am going to try on making a unique design for some long sleeve shirts. So what I was thinking of doing is, adding something to the sleeves.
Oh, okay.
I know
about
try
this.
And see about that. We'd have to get approved for that first. So I'll let you guys know in future episodes or on social. So be sure to follow us on our socials at What Sleep Podcast.
Find us pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. These shirts look really cool.
Yeah, so
I forgot I've seen them.
So keep an eye out for that type of news, and let's get into it.
Yeah, cool. So today's episode is actually recommended by my friend. What's up, Bree? I know she listens. Yeah, you see that? Look at that. Give you a little shout out if you guys
get the special nut button.
So today's episode is going to be on a woman named Giulia Tofana. This case takes place in southern Italy during the tail end of the cultural renaissance of the 14th and 17th centuries.
So first things first, I'm looking at this painting and the cat is staring into my soul.
Oh yeah, this cat.
That thing is horrifying.
Just,
like it's a good painting, much better than anything I could ever do, but there's just something about that cat that is very unsettling.
So yeah, art was getting put in. They were embracing philosophy, and they were, getting into science and stuff like that. So it was like really kind of just moving forward in society, basically.
Yeah.
Of course, during this time still, however, women were very heavily oppressed. Women were simply pretty much seen as property of men, and it was very commonplace for marriages to be like arranged between families. Pretty much just to combine like financial situations,
Makes sense.
Arranged marriage stuff.
Yeah.
So
you got to make sure their fortunes are still there.
Ugh, gross. Anyway, so once married, the women were often like super powerless. Like they didn't have the husbands had like total control over like every aspect of their life. Where they could go, what they would buy, you're going to cook my dinner, you're going to clean the house, you're going to bear my children, that sort of thing. And oftentimes the wives would actually be beaten by their husbands, and almost every time the husbands would get away with it and face no consequences, just because that's kind of how society was back in the day. So when you have a toxic situation like that really there wasn't any means to end a marriage during that time, because divorce wasn't a thing. It was heavily frowned upon, especially in Italy.
Well, yeah, because the whole Vatican Church and everything.
They're heavily religious, so people had to start getting kind of creative
by poisoning their husbands.
A woman named Giulia Tofana was read as a beautiful socialite who was born in 1620 in the capital city of Palermo, Sicily, Italy. She was believed to have been the daughter of a woman named Tofania D'Adamo. I'm sorry if I butcher that. And her father was unknown. There's not really a lot known about her or, pretty much the time, because it's 1620.
It's far back.
It's very far back. And if you weren't important, there weren't a lot of records about you.
Oh, yeah.
So there really also isn't. So I tried to look up pictures, and here I'll show you a picture of a depiction of her, but there's no surviving portraits of her. So this is kind of what people have this picture is what people have labeled her to look like.
I like the little sleeve thing she's got going on.
It's very cool. Again, this is the end of the, kind of Renaissance artsy era. So this painting was done. I mean, their clothing and things like that were just immaculate, like immaculate. So again, it's not her, but I'll tell you kind of what we're looking at. So it's, a really beautiful woman. She's got red hair. She's pouring a vial into a cup, and we'll explain the depiction of that picture in a minute.
She's got like a silky gold dress.
Yeah, she's very pretty. And she has a black cat sitting at her feet, which is terrifying.
It stares into your soul.
But
it's like the old Sabrina Teenage Witch cat.
Yeah, not the
fake
cat,
one,
but the puppet.
Yeah, the puppet one.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Most of the information that I found on Giulia was put together through very hard work by lots of different historians, and there's still not even a whole lot. And again, regardless of the fact that she's one of history's most prolific serial killers to date.
Nice. So essentially, she did her job very well.
She did her job very well. So it is known that she spent much of her time with apothecaries, who were pretty much people that make and distribute medicine. So kind of like a pharmacist back in the day. Learning how to become somewhat of an apothecary herself.
Oh boy.
So Giulia was well aware of the state of society, especially the attitude towards women back in the day and during her lifetime. And she did see a need for women to fight for themselves if the need arose. She found her niche, kinda, in the world as a sort of martyr for women in need. And those downtrodden women quickly became interested in what Giulia had to offer. Poison.
Dang, all right.
It was poison.
See, I was thinking, she would just, help out women and being like, hey,
like a safe house situation.
Yeah, like just protect them, not be like, hey, here's some poison.
Well, yeah.
Kill him.
Again, back in the day, it was very hard to get out of marriages and like get away from your husband. And I think, I don't know what it was called, but I think back in the day, like you could straight up get killed if you tried to like leave your husband. So
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, but it was a super hard situation for a lot of women in that era. So it is believed by some that the recipe Giulia made and distributed was handed down by her mother, whose own execution was a result of a murder charge.
Well, wow. Like mother, like daughter, right?
Right. I mean, apple doesn't fall far. But her mother, Tofana D'Amo,
We need like a Sicilian mob person to answer. Like, how do you pronounce that?
We need a linguist for all of our cases. Was executed in Palermo on July 12th of 1633 for the poisoning and murder of her husband when Giulia was just 13 years old. It is heavily believed, however, that through her time with the apothecaries, that Giulia was actually the one that designed her recipe by herself.
Okay.
So people just kind of get that idea from the fact that her mother did poison her husband, not necessarily her father. I don't really know who her dad is. Nobody does.
Probably because he's dead.
There's some similarities there with the whole was poisoned, now daughter's poisoning. So that's the whole reason for that. But Giulia's recipe was crafted from ingredients including lead, belladonna, and arsenic.
Lead?
Yeah. So the concoction had no color, no smell, and no taste. It only took a few drops of this poison given over the course of just a few days, like 3 to 4 days, to kill somebody, and there was no trace left post-mortem. So it was really hard to...
Bro, how do you even like figure out how to make something like that?
She was with a lot of really smart people, probably learned a lot.
Yeah, I know, but he was like
concoctions.
Lead?
Have you seen how cocaine's
arsenic?
made?
Yeah, but because they really want to get high and make money.
So symptoms of this poison were also that it just kind of seemed like victims were affected by a flu or a common cold.
Bro.
Which
amazing.
it was still deadly at the time, but it wasn't death by poison. So officials didn't really like catch on to it. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm pretty sure the flu, it was much easier to die from the flu than it is nowadays.
Yeah, that's back in the day. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
lot
So
more
I'm pretty sure they
common
were
to
just like,
die.
yeah, it's the flu.
Yeah.
Typical.
Yeah, so like they just didn't never catch on. Well, for a long time they didn't catch on. But basically this poison was undetectable and it was a lethal solution to the problems that many women were facing in their marriages. So it was easy, it was attainable, and lethal.
All right.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah.
So the name given to this poison officially was aqua tofana, and Giulia sold her poison to hundreds of women over the course of many years, even involving her daughter.
Oh, okay. I was about to like involved her daughter. She killed her daughter?
No. I'm really sorry I'm going to butcher this. I think it's Girolama Spera.
I mean, that's how I'd pronounce it, but you know me, I'm not very good at pronouncing anything.
It's very difficult. So she involved her daughter in the business as well. So her daughter eventually went on to learn the recipe, make the recipe, help her sell it,
Jeez.
that sort of thing.
Okay.
So Giulia ran a makeup business kind of as a front. She did sell legitimate makeup as well. And if you ask the right questions, some of this makeup could be laced with aqua tofana. Lead and arsenic were actually super common ingredients that they used to use in makeup powders.
Hold up. They used to use arsenic in makeup?
Apparently. This was 1633 at this point, at least 1633.
I mean, yeah, but okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
It's crazy.
Interesting.
And belladonna berry juice was common as well with many women. They actually used it in like small drops, kind of like a eye drop, as to dilate their pupils so as to give them a quote unquote beautiful luminescence, which is just their pupils get really big and really shiny.
Okay.
So
hold up.
I would never.
Belladonna berry juice?
Yes.
So what person was like, and just like squirted it in their eye?
I like to think that it happened because they were eating the berry. I don't know a lot about the berry itself. I don't know if it's poisonous.
Also called deadly nightshade.
Oh.
It's nightshade, my guy.
So, yeah.
And they were just squirting it in their eyes?
Apparently, somebody might have held it. Have you ever like held a grape or like any food at any point, accidentally squeezed too hard and it just kind of splashed up in your face?
No.
Okay, well that might have happened. And they might have noticed that their eyes or their pupils got really
I know this
big.
is really poisonous and dangerous to consume, but my eyes are just fabulous.
It's the 17th century, my dude.
Dude.
So basically, it wasn't weird that Giulia had these things on hand, as she had a makeup front for, her poison business.
I'm sorry, I just can't get over. Yeah, like the things they use to make things, and they're just like.
There's probably things we don't know of today that are super lethal to us. You know what I mean? Because like even in the 1900s, what was it?
What is it? Coke Zero. They use like a modified version of rat poison in it, which I'm like, good thing I'm a Pepsi person.
But yeah, I mean, there's still stuff like we probably use on a daily basis that's super lethal to us. So they probably just didn't. I don't know if they were aware in the day in 16.
I'm sure they did not care a whole lot.
I also
they're like, it makes me look good.
It makes my eyes pretty.
And I'm sure they didn't live long enough anyways. What would have been like the average lifespan of somebody back then?
1633.
So in 1860, the average lifespan was 39.4 years.
Very specific.
Yeah.
That's so short.
That seems like awfully low.
Yeah. Well, I guess whenever you factor in the fact that.
But that was in the 1800s.
Children, and this is 1633.
Yeah, so it's probably
much lower.
I wouldn't say much lower, but probably lower than that.
Yeah.
I'd probably say like 35.
Maybe. I could see in the 30s.
Probably.
Anyway. The poison itself, if not made into makeup products such as like blush or something like that, was also sold and packaged in perfume bottles or packaged in quote unquote religious healing oil in a bottle depicting Saint Nicholas of Bari, and there is an image of that, and I will show you that here.
Oh, that actually looks really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That was full of poison. So
Worth it.
And yes, this is the same Saint Nicholas, the gift giver, that gave us Santa Claus. So I read that and I was like,
Merry Christmas, here's death.
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes, sorry. So it's kind of a Christmassy like tie-in. That's pretty cool. I thought that was fun. But
interesting how that worked out for you.
But it's doing something and it
You know
kind of
what that
ties
means,
in
right?
relevancy, manifesting it or something.
It's meant to be.
Anyway, so there is no fate, there is only chance.
I mean, yeah, but who's to say that chance isn't fate?
What happens is gonna happen whether or not it's supposed to. But yeah, I thought that was super cool because I thought about it. I was like, okay, so the poison bottle on the religious healing oil was depicting Saint Nicholas the gift giver, so she was technically giving the gift of death to her clients. So she kind of like offhand, you know what I mean?
Here's
but also
my
it's
gift
Santa
to you.
Claus. Yeah, pretty much. I thought that was a really cool thing, like fact. It's not don't poison people, but I thought that was a cool
Also,
fact.
I gotta say, there's one thing about this bottle that's really annoying me.
What?
The top part is not centered, and it's
an old
it's
bottle.
at an angle.
Come on.
I know. Back then, it was probably way more difficult to blow glass than it is nowadays. But you know,
Probably stayed the same.
my OCD is bothering me.
I'm sorry, we'll get rid of it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I can't. It's not up more. Thank you. I can't stop staring at it, and it's bothering me.
It's gone now. It won't hurt you anymore.
It's gonna give me the Christmas gift of death.
Merry Christmas, here's death. So the perfume bottle was sold with the promise that, quote, a small 4 to 6 drops are sufficient to destroy a man. End quote.
Destroy is such an aggressive
Destroy
word.
is such an aggressive word. But if that's what you're looking for, it does the job. Go to the podcast, scroll down. No, hold on.
Oh,
install.
also, if you live in the state of Washington and Lake Stevens, what is going on over there? Why do y'all like podcasts so much?
Who's listening to? Maybe that's where the FBI is, and they have to listen to all the
That's
episodes.
one of the theories.
Oh, really?
I gotta send you that podcast that was literally just talking about conspiracy theories about.
I think you
Lake
sent it to me. I
Stevens.
just haven't listened to it yet. I need to. My world has been taken over by World of Warcraft. So.
Yeah.
Shut up.
I'm just curious now. Like, if you're out there in Lake Stevens, Washington, like, send us an email. Like, is that like all y'all do?
Giulia was really smart about like not getting caught and being able to sell her products safely to these women, and she did have male clients as well, because I mean it's
for
poison, you know what I mean.
Well, that too. I was like,
So-
just buying it for their wives or
Could.
whatever.
Well, to poison themselves.
Well, I mean, not all of it. I mean, they could just buy it because they like them. Or like, hey, I just want to buy makeup for her or something.
I guess. Well, no, because we'll get into it later, but she was very, very selective about who was able to buy this stuff. Very selective.
So, like, was all of it? Like, she just didn't sell it to, like, in general? Because
No.
you mentioned earlier that was like, if they asked the right questions, then that would be
If you asked the right questions and got through the right pathways to get to the poison, she would sell it to you. But we'll go a little bit
Okay.
more into it later. It was more of like covering her tracks. Like if somebody, so a lot of her clients were very word of mouth. Almost all of her clients, like her successful previous ones, would let somebody else know, as long as the client themselves trusted this other person, would say, hey, go to her. She can sell you this to help you with your problem. And Giulia would then go back to the previous client and say, hey, did you send them to me? Are they okay? Are they good? Can I trust them? So it was, if you knew the right people, if you knew what to say, you could get the poison. But she was very careful with it.
Okay.
So again, yeah, she's like super smart about it, like through and through. And one of the main reasons for packaging the poison was this way was pretty much just concealment. So like,
of course. You don't want that just randomly touching people,
well,
let alone yourself.
Concealment. I mean, like,
Well, that too. But.
so they could, like, women could take the bottle home. It's a bottle of lotion, it's holy water for Saint Nicholas the gift giver. I could put this on myself
Psych.
and nobody's gonna know what it is. This blush that is laced with the poison, nobody's gonna know what it is. It's not marked as poison.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just bad practice. If you're like, hey, this is poison.
Yeah. basically. But she covered her tracks. So, due to the success of her product, many women would come to Giulia just by word of mouth, almost all of her clients. And she became very known, like well known amongst all of the people, mainly women who did need this sort of product. She became known as, quote, the friend of the troubled wife. And she even had a few male customers, of course, like we said. Many people at the time were deeply religious, and oftentimes while the victims were becoming increasingly ill, they would begin to repent for their sins and would kind of get their wills in order, just in case they died, which they did days later. So this was just kind of like an added bonus to the clients who administered the poison, because one, they were likely to receive the benefits from the will, and two, they were given a sort of like closure and like a quote unquote apology for what they had gone through. Like if it's a beaten wife or something. I wouldn't really consider that an apology though, as like ultimately the victims were just trying to repent and gain access to heaven, but it is what it is, I guess. It's some sort of closure. Obviously, her clientele became very protective of Giulia, for what she had done for, hundreds of women and some men all across Italy and Rome. New clients were almost exclusively sent to her by her previous clients, and only if the new client could be trusted. So no one would send their friends or family if they didn't fully believe that they could be trusted with the information of Giulia's dealings.
I gotta say, she's putting a lot of faith in people.
She is, but
because she could easily, like one of these people could tell somebody else about them, but she's just like, I don't like them, and they could be like, all right, I'm gonna go snitch on you.
Right?
Hey, she's selling poison.
You could, but not only were Giulia and her daughter in danger from the law, but so were the clients. So the clients had to make sure that not only was Giulia safe, but they were safe too.
Yeah, I mean,
because you're literally telling them about a poison that you used on your.
Well, I'm saying, someone that she
victim.
turned away or something. I don't know. Like, they got told about it. I don't know.
Well, maybe she could have covered it up like, she can take care of your husband problem kind of thing. And then she went to her and said, no, I'm not going to, I'm not dealing with you. Could have just sent them away like that. So I'm sure she was very careful because she got away with this for a very long time.
I bet.
So when selling Aqua Tofana, Giulia would often coach her clients too on how to administer and behave before and after the death of their victims.
Wow. It's a whole 3-part course.
It is a business. It was written in a journal that was found during the 1600s, or found that was written in the 1600s during the time of the murders, that described what would occur during the poisoning. The women were told to administer just a few drops over the course of a few days to be convincing, and told to act anxious, especially in front of the, quote, medical men that were called to their homes to assist the victims. So,
witch doctors.
Right. So they would come over like on first symptoms of them being very ill. Like they'd be throwing up, it'd be kind of gross, but like diarrhea, they would just not be good. The doctor would come over, see that the wife was super, stressed out, anxious, like, oh my God, he's dying, blah, 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 super sick. And then they'd give him medicine. A few more drops. Next day, he's even worse. Comes over, oh my God, he's even worse. Just freaking out. So over the course of a couple of days, it was sort of like an acting scene. Obviously, this was done to pretty much cover the client's tracks as well as Giulia's. Yeah. So one other thing that Giulia did was she made sure to tell absolutely every single client to demand a post-mortem examination as well. Of course, the examination wouldn't show anything, but in turn, that would then increase the innocence of the client. Yeah. When looking at the death of their victim. So it was very thought out.
It rolls out like,
it was kind of like
poisoning,
hammering down like, you're safe, I'm safe, cover our tracks kind of thing. So as makeup was her front, it was very easy for Giulia and her daughter to pick up and move if she needed to, and she did. Giulia was in business for over 50 years, producing and selling her makeups and poisons. Wow. So needless to say, obviously her clients were very grateful and heavily loyal to Giulia you think about it. That's a lot of power. It is a lot of power, but depending on how you look at it, like these women were getting beat in their homes. They were not able to leave their marriages. And, obviously some men too, these things were happening. Obviously not in like marriages and stuff, because that was like, you could die for that. But, if you needed the poison, you probably had a good reason. So eventually Julia and her daughter had made their way across Italy to Naples and then to Rome. She was always very selective with her clients, like we said, and she always checked in with those who recommended her to make sure that they weren't officials looking into her suspiciously. Another thing she did to cover her tracks was eventually she put on the bottles that she sold, she labeled them with directions to cover herself if the truth came out. The labels that she put onto the bottles would reiterate, quote unquote, how to use it, though these new directions read as directions for like a beauty product rather than the poison. So they would say things like, use 2 to 3 drops every night for 4 nights to tighten the skin or to rosy the cheeks or something like that. So it was just kind of like an extra look, this is a beauty product. Didn't know it was gonna kill people.
She really thought this through.
Super innocent.
Not gonna lie.
She was a smart lady.
Really good murderer.
One of the most successful and prolific ones to date. Very wild.
I wonder who has the highest body count.
So far, I think her. Oh, no, Hitler,
Well, he didn't do it. Well, I guess she technically didn't either. Yeah, I guess Hitler makes sense.
So here's where everything goes wrong. In the 1650s, a new client came to Giulia to purchase some aqua tofana. Giulia, of course, did her homework and made sure that this new client was legit and sold her the poison. The woman prepared her husband's dinner that night and laced a few drops of the aqua tofana. And as her husband went to take a few bites out of his meal, she screamed at him and pretty much was like, don't eat that, stop. Like, got a guilty conscience, was like, don't put that down. So essentially saving him. And it is said that at this point, the husband held the woman down and began to beat her, demanding that she explain exactly what she had done to his meal to make him stop from eating it. She confesses to him through this beating that she had poisoned the food, and he immediately takes her to the authorities.
All right, so she saved your life. Well, she was about
after
to
trying to kill him.
She was like trying to kill him, but she told you to stop. So you then proceed to beat her.
Well,
I mean, I guess
women,
sense.
Man, what are you gonna do?
Beat them, apparently.
Apparently beat them. So, once she was at the police department, not the police department.
Those didn't exist yet.
Once she was with the authorities, the woman basically was tortured for hours and was tortured for any and all information that she had, such as what she had done, what the poison was, and where she had gotten it. So through the rumor mill throughout the town, Giulia had caught wind that she had confessed, and immediately she went into hiding.
Obviously.
So she had actually went to a church that was close by and requested sanctuary there, which basically means that as long as she is in a holy place or a place of worship, she has immunity to arrest afforded by a sovereign authority. And this whole thing from this point forward reminds me aggressively of Hunchback of Notre Dame. The gypsy lady.
It's been years since I've seen that movie. I don't think I've seen that since I was like 5.
Oh, really? It's a good movie. You should watch it. It's really messed up.
Well, I'm sure.
But while writing these notes, the entire scene of the end of that movie played through my head. And I was like, well, except for, the burning. But
I guess for my homework, I'll have to rewatch it.
You're going to have to rewatch that. So, fun fact, the sanctuary in a church thing is still a thing in some places, pretty much just kind of for the sake of tradition. Obviously, it depends on the crime. Like, if you blow something up and then try to hide in a church, they're going to come in and get you. But, like, if you steal something and run it through a church, like, they're probably going to be like, hey, just come out. Like, we're not going to come in there to arrest you in, like, the Notre Dame, or we're not doing that.
Like, at this point, what's the difference? Like, if you're going to do it for certain crimes, might as well do it for all of them.
I think it depends on the severity. Maybe. I don't know.
Whatever.
I thought that was a fun fact.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like that. What is that? Like that set of stairs here where, like, I think at like Sunday before 10 o'clock, you're legally
The
allowed to
courthouse,
like,
the steps of the courthouse.
you're legally allowed to like beat your wife with nothing bigger than your thumb.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Ridiculous.
So it's like technically you could stone her to death.
Still legal.
So I thought that was really weird. It's like
Yeah, put it
only
in
on those
sock,
steps. I don't know. There's still weird little things like that
Yeah.
around the world.
So she remained there while she made plans to escape and find a new place to go. While in the church, somehow a rumor started that Giulia had poisoned all of Rome's water supply.
Oh, that was her?
And at this point, the citizens of Rome were terrified and furious.
I mean, obviously. So that was her that, okay. I've heard about the whole poisoning of the Rome's water supply.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that was her.
I
Okay.
forgot that was a thing. So at this point, once that rumor kind of started, they were kind of demanding that she be killed immediately. So someone had revealed where she was hiding out. Like, rude. Why?
What are
Rude.
you, Takashi 6ix9ine?
Anyway.
Sorry, that's apparently this week's joke. Is just gooning on
6ix9ine. And a mob of citizens had actually stormed the church where Giulia was. And they demanded her to be released. And unfortunately, of course, the church couldn't really hold her in sanctuary anymore because they now had a mob on their doorstep and the authorities were there for her. And she was very quickly handed over to the authorities.
Interesting.
At this point, Giulia was tortured into confessing everything that she had done. She confessed that between the years of 1633 and 1651, she was responsible for the deaths of an average of 600 men.
Wow.
Yeah. Though some historians do believe this number to be higher.
All right.
Because, I mean, you think about it, you sell a bottle of poison and you only use like 3 or 4 drops. You got a lot of poison left over. You know what I'm saying? So she could be responsible for
She's
over that.
the reason why Rome fell. I'm just kidding. But that's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. That's an insane amount of people.
Huh.
The authorities also forced her to name some of her clientele, though, and I bet you she named that woman.
Oh,
that ratted her out.
Probably. Well, I mean, technically, she ratted herself out when she got taken to the authorities.
So many, of course, were not named, as she couldn't remember all of the women and men that she had served over the course of her business.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you kill an
That's
estimated,
a lot of
or you sell
people.
poison to kill 600 men. That's probably
Right.
at least 600 women.
Right. So in July of 1659, Giulia, along with her daughter and 3 of their, they were called helpers, but employees, were executed.
Wow.
And this is going to mess you up. I was mad. Not mess you up, but I was mad.
Okay.
It was messed up. They were executed in a square called, I'm going to mess this up, I'm sorry, Campo dei Fiori in Rome. And what's kind of sad about this location is that this was kept for a very long time in ancient Rome as an open field that, like, it grew flowers. This field had so many flowers in it, and it seemed like a really nice place to be.
Sounds like it.
They did eventually pave over this field and turned it into the square where many people were hung and burned at the stake.
Oh.
And after her death, Giulia's body was actually thrown over the wall of the church that had given her sanctuary. Like, that's messed up.
So, never mind. I'm not going to get into that.
I just don't understand how you have such respect for the church and then you throw the bodies of
I'm not
criminals.
Gonna get into that. I'm not going to get into that.
It's. I found that really sad.
That's messed up.
A lot of her clients after the execution were charged with murder, though, again, many of them obviously claimed ignorance as there were things put in place just in case something like this happened. They claimed that what they purchased were simply beauty products, which, made it difficult to determine the legitimate clientele. Some of the clients were executed very quickly in a very similar fashion to Giulia, not thrown over the wall, but how she died, though others were unfortunately bricked into the dungeons of the Palace of the Holy Office and left to die, which is in the Vatican. So that happened.
So that's what they keep secret in here.
Most information on this case is described by historians over the years, and there's no official record on how many people she was the result of killing. Exactly what went into her poisons other than the main catalysts weren't is left up to debate, except for those three main things were confirmed.
Yeah.
And also, some people have doubts that she had even existed, as there are not many records or portraits of her mother, Giulia herself, or her daughter. Which,
well, if you sell poison, you don't exactly want your face plastered everywhere.
Yeah, first of all, that. Secondly, again, if you're not an important figure in history, you're not really going to be recorded. You know what I mean? Many people do criticize the number of victims that Giulia confessed to, as she was being tortured when she confessed to these things. So you're going to want the torture to end as soon as possible. And if you don't say what they want you to say, they're going to keep torturing you. So a lot of people were like, maybe there were less, maybe there were more, but we don't believe in this number. Some people also go as far to say that Giulia was innocent. They do come to the conclusion, they come to that conclusion as maybe Giulia was simply experimenting with cosmetics, and not much was known of dangerous chemicals, which is the case for, again, like we said, some things today could be dangerous chemicals. They do believe that because she was a woman, she was blamed for many of these deaths. And I don't believe this theory at all, because it's recorded that she gave instructions on how to do it, which could be a beauty supply thing, how to administer.
And you're also talking about how it's a recipe passed down from her mother.
Right.
So
but I mean, it could be makeup, and people might have just discovered that it also kills people. We don't really know.
But
there's not a lot of information.
About at least 600 women just like, oh, this poisons people.
Well, rumors spread. And she took the fall. Literally, she got thrown. No.
Oh, literally. Wow, that's messed up.
So, final fun fact about this case: in 1791, Mozart, when he fell ill, he became convinced that he was poisoned, saying just a few days before his death, quote, "I will not last much longer. I'm sure that I've been poisoned. I cannot rid myself of this idea that someone has given me aqua Tofana," end quote. And it is noted by historians that he was more likely to have died of syphilis or food poisoning, but that is something he said before his death.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
That is the case of Giulia Tofana and her poison.
Killing spree.
Aqua Tofana.
Huh. Is that available as a perfume now?
There's a lot of art that you can get of just like bottles of Aqua Tofana.
Really?
Like art.
Where's
the phone case? Yeah, there's like just art that people have made.
That's a pretty cool looking tattoo, though.
Yeah.
Capitalizing off of poison.
Woo!
Interesting.
So if you guys liked that episode, do leave a like. Let us know how we did. Leave a comment. Leave a review. 5-star review on Apple iTunes. Bring our average up a little bit. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at What Sleep Podcast. And you can find us on Twitter at What Sleep Pod.
If you have any recommendations or, criticisms.
Not criticisms, comments. Do not criticize me.
Go ahead and send us an email at whatsleeppodcast@gmail.com. We read every email we receive. And if you have any ghost stories, UFO stories that you've personally experienced, anything like that.
Spooky encounters. Email them to me.
Email us so we can
I will read them.
Eventually do another listener story. We're hoping to do that very soon. So be sure to do that if you have any cool stories.
That's just one extra episode a month for you guys.
Yeah.
Would be lots of fun. I want to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah. See you guys next week.
Bye.